The massive crystal chamber of the Galactic Council filled with nervous whispers as hundreds of alien species gathered for the emergency meeting. Ambassador Zektar of the Vorthak Empire stood tall at the center podium, his four muscular arms crossed with confidence. His dark scales gleamed under the bright lights as he waited for silence. Elder Counselor Yixara shuffled forward on her old legs. Her once bright scales had dulled to gray after 300 years of serving the Council. She had seen many wars and many foolish decisions, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. "Honored Council," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "I must speak about the humans. The Vorthak Empire plans to attack their home system. This is a terrible mistake." Zektar laughed loudly, the sound echoing off the crystal walls. Many smaller species jumped at the harsh noise. The ancient meridian speaks of fear again. "Tell us, old one, what makes these primitive humans so special?" Yixara looked around the chamber at faces both familiar and strange. Some species had been part of the Council for thousands of years. Others were new, recently discovered by exploration fleets. All of them waited to hear her words. "I have watched the humans for 200 years," she said slowly, "since they first split the atom, since they first left their planet. They are not like us. When threatened, when their young are in danger, they become something else entirely." "Something else?" Zektar mocked. "They still use chemical rockets and metal bullets. Our shields can stop their weapons while we sleep. Our ships are 10 times larger than theirs. What could these primitives possibly do to the mighty Vorthak Empire?" The elder closed her ancient eyes and remembered. She remembered watching human cities burn during their great wars. She remembered seeing them rebuild stronger than before. She remembered the first time she saw human mothers protecting their children from predators twice their size, fighting with a fury that made veteran warriors step back in fear. "You do not understand," she continued. "Most species, when facing a stronger enemy, will surrender to save lives. They will negotiate. They will retreat. Humans do the opposite. The more you threaten them, the more dangerous they become. And if you threaten their children—" She paused, searching for the right words. "If you threaten their young, they stop being civilized altogether." Zektar's confidence never wavered. He had conquered 17 star systems for the Empire. His fleets had crushed resistance movements across 3 sectors. No primitive species had ever stood against Vorthak military might and survived. "The humans have been in space for less than 100 years, he declared. "They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no gravitational drives. They are insects compared to us. I will crush them in 3 days and bring their leaders to serve the Empire." Other council members began to murmur among themselves. The Nexarian delegate shifted nervously in his floating chair. The crystalline ambassador's light patterns flickered with concern. Even the warrior species seemed uncomfortable with Zektar's confidence. But the Vorthak commander was not finished. "I have studied their military records. They fight wars against each other with simple weapons. They move slowly between stars. Their largest ships carry fewer than 500 warriors. My flagship alone holds 10,000 soldiers." Yixara stepped closer to the podium. Her old voice carried clearly through the chamber. "Have you studied how they fight when cornered? Have you seen what they do when someone threatens to take their children? Have you learned about their concept of total war?" "Total war?" Zektar's mandibles clicked with amusement. "You mean they fight until they run out of bullets? Until their primitive ships break down? This only proves my point about their weakness." "No," the elder said quietly. "Total war means they will use everything, every weapon, every resource, every person. They will sacrifice anything to protect their young. They will turn their entire civilization into a weapon if necessary." The chamber fell silent. Many council members had never heard of such a concept. Most civilized species fought limited wars with clear rules and boundaries. They protected civilians and avoided damaging important infrastructure. They surrendered when defeat became certain to prevent unnecessary death. Zektar waved all 4 arms dismissively. "Fairy tales from a frightened old creature. The Vorthak Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds. No species has ever successfully resisted us for more than a few months. These humans will be no different." 3 days later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Unity. The ship hung in space near the outer edge of the solar system, along with the rest of humanity's small fleet. Jake read the message from the Vorthak Empire for the 3rd time, his jaw getting tighter with each word. "Sir, Lieutenant Amy Parker looked up from her communications station. Her young face showed the same anger Jake felt building in his chest. Should I send our response? Jake looked around his bridge at the men and women who served under him. Chief Engineer Ben Hughes sat at his station, slowly cleaning his glasses. Jake had served with Ben for 8 years and knew that when the quiet engineer started cleaning his glasses, someone was about to have a very bad day. The message from the Vorthak Empire was simple and brutal. Earth had 72 hours to surrender all colonies and submit to imperial rule. All human military forces would be dissolved. All weapons would be handed over. Human children would be taken to serve the Empire as workers and soldiers. They want our children, Jake said quietly. Around the bridge, his crew stopped what they were doing and listened. They think they can just take our sons and daughters. They think we will hand over our families to save ourselves. Ben Hughes finished cleaning his glasses and put them back on. He looked up at his captain with the calm expression of a man who had just made a very important decision. Captain, I think they have made a serious error in judgment. Jake nodded slowly. He thought about his own daughter back on Earth. Sarah was only 10 years old and loved to draw pictures of the stars. She wanted to be an explorer when she grew up. She wanted to see new worlds and meet alien friends. These aliens were not going to be Sarah's friends. Amy, send a message back to the Vorthak fleet, Jake ordered. Tell them we have received their terms and will respond shortly. What about the surrender demand, sir? Jake Morrison smiled, but there was no humor in it. It was the smile of a man who had just realized that diplomacy was no longer an option. It was the smile of someone who understood that some lines should never be crossed. Tell them, he said quietly, that they obviously never got the memo about what happens when you threaten human children. The message was sent across space toward the approaching Vorthak fleet. In 3 days, they would arrive at Earth expecting to find a defeated enemy ready to surrender. Instead, they would discover exactly what Elder Counselor Yixara had tried to warn them about. They were about to learn why threatening human children was the worst mistake any species could make. The Vorthak First Assault Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a pack of hungry wolves. 50 massive warships stretched across the darkness, their hulls gleaming with deadly purpose. Each dreadnought was over 2 miles long and bristled with enough firepower to glass a continent. Fleet Commander Vextol stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. His scales rippled with satisfaction as he looked at the tactical display. This would be the easiest conquest in Vorthak history. Report, he commanded his sensor officer. Scanning the system now, Commander. The younger Vorthak's mandibles clicked nervously as he studied his readings. I detect the human homeworld, third planet from the star. Multiple space stations in orbit. Some small craft moving between the planets. What about their military fleet? Vextol asked. Where are their warships? The sensor officer hesitated. Sir, I am not detecting any large military vessels. There are some small ships near the third planet, but nothing that could threaten our forces. Vextol laughed deeply. The sound echoed through the bridge, making several junior officers flinch. This was even better than he had hoped. The humans were so primitive they did not even have a proper defense fleet waiting for them. Pathetic, he muttered. Intelligence reports suggested they had at least 100 ships. Are they hiding behind their moon? No, sir, I have scanned the entire system. The largest human vessel I detect is less than 800 meters long. Most are much smaller. Subcommander Grixnell approached the command platform. His battle scars marked him as a veteran of many conquests. Commander, perhaps they have retreated to other systems? Some species flee when they know they cannot win. No, Vextol said firmly. Our scouts confirmed their ships were here 3 days ago. They must be using some kind of stealth technology. He turned to the weapons officer. It does not matter. Even if they have invisible ships, they cannot harm us. Our shields can deflect anything these primitives might throw at us. The Vorthak fleet began moving deeper into the solar system. Their sensors swept space looking for hidden human vessels but found nothing threatening. The asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets showed normal readings. Just rocks and ice floating in the void. On the hidden observation post built inside Luna, Colonel Lisa Hayes watched the alien fleet approach through her periscope. The humans had been preparing for this day for 20 years, ever since their first contact with hostile aliens in the outer colonies. Phoenix Squadron, this is Control. She spoke into her headset. Enemy fleet is entering the trap zone. All units maintain silence until my command. Around the asteroid belt, 30 human ships waited in perfect stillness. They had been there for 6 days, powered down and hidden among the rocks. Each ship was covered with special coating that made them invisible to most sensors. The crews had trained for this moment for years. Captain Steve Foster floated in his modified interceptor, the Shadowhawk. His ship was small compared to the alien dreadnoughts, but it carried weapons that the Vorthak had never seen before, weapons that human scientists had been developing in secret for decades. "Control, this is Phoenix Leader," Steve whispered into his comm. "I have visual on the enemy fleet. They look pretty confident for guys who are about to get the surprise of their lives." The Vorthak fleet continued its approach to Earth. Commander Vextol was already planning the victory celebration. The Emperor would be pleased with such a quick conquest. Perhaps there would be a promotion in this for him. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "I am detecting some gravitational anomalies near several asteroids. The readings are very faint. Space debris," Vextol said dismissively. "Or maybe small mining operations. Nothing that concerns a military fleet." That was his first mistake. His second mistake was assuming that humans fought like other species. "Phoenix Squadron, weapons free," Colonel Hayes commanded. "Repeat, weapons free. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The asteroids exploded into motion. What the Vorthak had dismissed as space rocks suddenly revealed themselves as carefully hidden human warships. Engines that had been cold for days roared to life. Ships that had been drifting like debris suddenly accelerated at impossible speeds. "Contact," the Vorthak sensor officer screamed. "Multiple ships decloaking throughout the belt. They were hiding in the asteroids." But Vextol had no time to respond. Captain Foster's ship streaked out of the asteroid field like a silver arrow, moving faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Behind him came 29 other human ships, all moving in perfect formation. "Target their flagship," Foster ordered his wingman. "Let's show these lizards what gravitational pulse torpedoes can do." The human ships fired weapons that the Vorthak had never encountered before. Instead of energy beams or kinetic projectiles, these weapons twisted space itself. They created tiny black holes that lasted for only microseconds but long enough to do terrible damage. "Shields up," Vextol commanded, but his shields were designed to stop conventional weapons. They offered no protection against weapons that folded space-time. The first torpedo hit the destroyer of worlds amidships. The massive dreadnought began to fold in on itself like paper. Metal that had been forged in the heart of a star was compressed into a space smaller than a marble. The ship's shields flickered and died as the vessel collapsed. "Impossible!" Vextol screamed as his bridge began to buckle around him. "Our armor can withstand anything. Our shields are impenetrable." Steve Foster's voice came over the open comm channel, speaking in perfect Vorthak. "Your shields work great against normal weapons, Commander. Too bad we don't use normal weapons anymore." The flagship imploded completely. 2 miles of advanced alien warship became a tiny dot of super-compressed matter that winked out of existence. Around the fleet, other human ships were engaging with the same devastating results. "Retreat," Sub-Commander Grixnell ordered from his own ship. "All vessels retreat immediately." But the humans were not finished. They had been planning this ambush for years, and they executed it with surgical precision. Every escape route was blocked. Every formation was anticipated. Captain Janet Miller led the second wave of attacks from the outer belt. Her ship, the Vengeance, carried the newest human weapon, quantum destabilizer warheads that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. "Remember what they said about our children," she told her crew as they closed in on a fleeing Vorthak cruiser. "Remember what they planned to do to our families." The Vorthak cruiser tried to turn and fight, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. The aliens had built their vessels for intimidation and overwhelming firepower. The humans had built theirs for war. In 37 minutes, the entire Vorthak First Assault Fleet was destroyed. 50 massive warships reduced to floating debris and expanding clouds of gas. Not a single human ship was lost. Steve Foster guided his interceptor through the wreckage, scanning for survivors. "Control, this is Phoenix Leader. The field is clear. No alien vessels remaining." Colonel Hayes allowed herself a small smile. "Well done, Phoenix Squadron. But this is just the beginning. When news of this defeat reaches the Vorthak Empire, they will send more ships." "Let them come," Foster replied. "We have plenty more surprises waiting." In the depths of space, emergency beacons from the destroyed fleet transmitted their final messages back to Vorthak space. The messages were brief and terrifying. An entire assault fleet had been destroyed by primitive humans using impossible weapons. The war was just beginning. But the aliens were already learning their first lesson about humanity. When you threaten human children, humans stop playing by the rules of civilized warfare. They start playing to win. The emergency session in the Vorthak Imperial Palace lasted through the night. Supreme War Leader Kazthul paced back and forth across the polished floor, while his advisors presented their reports. Each report brought worse news than the last. 50 ships, he repeated for the 10th time. 50 of our best warships destroyed in less than an hour. How is this possible? Intelligence Chief Mordak trembled as he spoke. Supreme Leader, the survivors report that the humans used weapons that bend space itself. Our shields offered no protection. Our armor was useless. Impossible. Kazthul slammed his fist on the tactical table. No species developed such technology without centuries of advanced research. The humans have been in space for less than 100 years. Fleet Admiral Texrin stepped forward. His battle scars told the story of 40 years serving the Empire. Supreme Leader, perhaps we underestimated their capabilities. Their ships moved faster than our sensors could track. Their weapons ignore all known defensive systems. Kazthul stopped pacing and stared at the holographic display showing the Sol system. The human homeworld glowed blue and green in the center, surrounded by their colonies and space stations. It looked so peaceful, so vulnerable. No, he said firmly. They must have gotten lucky. Maybe they captured some advanced technology from another species, or perhaps they allied with the Meridians or the Nexarians. Mordak shook his head. Our spies report no such alliance, Supreme Leader. The humans appear to have developed these weapons on their own. Then we will overwhelm them with numbers, Kazthul decided. Send the second and third fleets together. 200 ships moving as one force. Even their impossible weapons cannot destroy so many vessels. While the Vorthak Empire planned their next attack, Earth's war machine moved into high gear. Admiral Jack Turner stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by officers from every branch of human military service. The room hummed with activity as data flowed in from across human space. Dr. Kate Phillips entered the briefing room carrying a tablet filled with technical specifications. Before the war, she had been a peaceful researcher studying theoretical physics. Now she led the team developing humanity's most dangerous weapons. Admiral, she said, we have finished analyzing the wreckage from the alien fleet. Their technology is impressive, but it has serious weaknesses. Tell me, Turner replied. Their shields work by deflecting energy and stopping physical objects, but they never considered weapons that attack the basic structure of matter itself. Our quantum destabilizers can tear their hulls apart at the atomic level. Major Tony Garcia stepped up to the tactical display. He commanded the newly formed Human Hunter Corps, elite soldiers trained for deep space warfare. Sir, while they are planning their next attack, we should hit them first. My teams have identified 17 supply depots and 3 major shipyards in nearby systems. Turner studied the star map. Red dots marked Vorthak military installations across 3 sectors of space. Each one represented thousands of enemy soldiers and hundreds of ships that could threaten Earth. What are you proposing, Major? Simultaneous strikes, Admiral. Hit all 20 targets at the same time. Destroy their ability to build new ships and supply their fleets. Make them fight with what they already have. Dr. Phillips nodded approvingly. The new quantum destabilizer warheads are ready for field testing. Each one can reduce a space station to component atoms in seconds. Turner looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military leadership. These men and women had spent their careers preparing for threats from space. Now that threat was here, and humanity would not wait passively for the next attack. Do it, he ordered. Launch Operation Deep Strike immediately. Captain Maria Santos commanded the stealth cruiser Phoenix, one of 12 ships selected for the Hunter Corps mission. Her target was Shipyard Omega-7, a massive facility capable of building 20 dreadnoughts simultaneously. The shipyard orbited a dead planet in the Kepler system, protected by defensive satellites and patrol ships. Approaching target zone, reported her navigation officer. Stealth systems are active. Enemy sensors show no indication they have detected us. Maria studied the tactical display. The shipyard was enormous, stretching for miles through space. Construction bays held partially built warships while automated systems assembled weapons and armor plating. Thousands of Vorthak workers moved through the facility like busy ants. Remember the mission briefing, she told her crew. This facility produces the ships they use to attack innocent worlds. The ships they plan to use against our children. Today we shut it down permanently. The Phoenix moved silently through space, its hull coated with materials that absorbed sensor sweeps. The Vorthak patrol ships passed within a few kilometers without detecting the human vessel. Their technology was advanced, but they had never faced an enemy that specialized in stealth warfare. Weapons range in 30 seconds, reported the tactical officer. Target the main support structure, Maria ordered. One quantum destabilizer should collapse the entire facility. At the same moment, 11 other human ships approached their own targets across Vorthak space. Each captain carried the same orders: destroy enemy infrastructure and return home safely. The coordinated attack would cripple the Empire's ability to wage war. Firing now, the weapons officer announced. The quantum destabilizer warhead struck the shipyard's central hub, and reality seemed to hiccup. The massive structure began falling apart as the weapon attacked the atomic bonds holding it together. Metal beams that had been forged in stellar furnaces forgot how to exist. The construction bays collapsed inward as gravity reclaimed the disintegrating materials. Direct hit, Maria confirmed. Target is completely destroyed. Across Vorthak space, similar scenes played out at military bases and supply depots. Human ships appeared from nowhere, delivered devastating attacks, and vanished back into the darkness. In 6 hours, the Empire lost 40% of its military production capacity. Supreme War Leader Kazathul received the reports in stunned silence. 20 military installations destroyed simultaneously. Hundreds of ships under construction reduced to cosmic dust. Thousands of trained personnel killed or missing. How did they coordinate attacks across so many star systems? He demanded. How did they know the locations of our classified facilities? Unknown, Supreme Leader, Mordak replied shakily. Our security protocols show no evidence of infiltration. Somehow the humans mapped our entire military network without us detecting their presence. Admiral Texran studied the tactical display with growing concern. Supreme Leader, these are not random attacks. They targeted our most important facilities with surgical precision. This suggests advanced intelligence gathering and careful planning. Kazathul felt a cold fear growing in his chest. For the first time since the war began, he wondered if the Empire had made a terrible mistake. How long until the second and third fleets reach human space? 18 hours, Supreme Leader. Good, once we crush their homeworld, these raids will end. No species can continue fighting after their home planet falls. But deep in space, Admiral Turner was preparing humanity's next move. The Hunter Corps had proven that human ships could strike anywhere in Vorthak space without warning. Now it was time to show the aliens what happened when you threatened human children. Dr. Phillips, he said quietly, how long until Project Ragnarok is ready? The physicist looked up from her calculations with worried eyes. 72 hours, Admiral. But sir, are we certain we want to deploy such a weapon? The theoretical yield could sterilize entire star systems. Turner thought about his granddaughter playing in the park back on Earth. He thought about all the children across human space who deserved to grow up in safety. Doctor, they started this war by threatening our families. We are going to finish it by showing them the price of such threats. The hunt had begun, and humanity was no longer the prey. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with panic as representatives from dozens of species tried to speak at once. Emergency sessions had been called 3 times in the past week, as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The humans were not simply defending themselves anymore. They were systematically destroying Vorthak military assets with weapons that defied all known laws of physics. Elder Counselor Yixara stood at her podium, her ancient voice cutting through the chaos. I warned you this would happen. I told the Vorthak Empire that humans become more dangerous when threatened, not less. Ambassador Drelu of the Nexarian Republic floated in his environmental suit, his tentacles writhing with fear. The reports are impossible to believe. Entire shipyards vanishing in seconds. Supply convoys destroyed by ships that appear from nowhere. How can a species so young possess such terrible weapons? They do not fight like civilized beings, added the crystalline delegate, her light patterns flickering with distress. They target military infrastructure with surgical precision. They show no interest in negotiation or surrender terms. Yixara nodded sadly. This is what I tried to explain. Humans do not wage war to gain territory or resources. When their children are threatened, they wage war to completely destroy their enemies. They will not stop until the threat is eliminated forever. Meanwhile, in the deepest bunker on the Vorthak homeworld, Supreme War Leader Kazthul stared at the tactical displays with growing desperation. His empire was crumbling around him as human raiders struck deeper into Vorthak space each day. The second and third fleets had been destroyed just like the first, ambushed by invisible human ships using impossible weapons. "How many shipyards do we have left?" he asked his trembling staff. "2, Supreme Leader," replied Admiral Texrin. "The humans destroyed Omega-7 last week. Delta Station fell 3 days ago. Only the facilities at Kronos and Vega Prime remain operational." Intelligence Chief Mordak approached the command table with the latest reports. His scales had lost their healthy sheen and his movements showed the stress of constant defeats. "Supreme Leader, our scout ships report human vessels operating in 12 different systems. They attack our convoys at will and vanish before our patrols can respond." Kazathul slammed both fists on the table. "This is impossible. They are primitives. How can a species that has been in space for less than a century outfight an empire that has conquered hundreds of worlds?" "Perhaps," Mordak suggested carefully, "we should consider negotiating with them. The Council has offered to mediate peace talks." "Never," Kazthul roared. "The Vorthak Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. If we cannot defeat them with conventional fleets, then we will use the planet killer." The room fell silent. Every officer present knew about the planet killer, but none had ever expected to see it deployed. The massive weapon was capable of cracking worlds like eggs, reducing entire planets to asteroid fields. It had been built as the ultimate deterrent, never intended for actual use. "Supreme Leader," Admiral Texrin said quietly, "the planet killer has never been tested against a defended target. We do not know if it will work." "It will work," Kazthul declared. "The weapon draws power from a collapsing star. Nothing in the universe can withstand that much energy. Target their colony worlds first, then Earth itself. When the humans see their children dying, they will surrender." On Earth, Admiral Turner received the intelligence report about the planet killer with grim determination. Satellite surveillance had detected the massive weapon leaving its hidden base in the Vorthak home system. Analysis suggested it would reach Proxima Colony in 6 days. 43,000 civilians, reported Commander Carl Thompson, his voice heavy with the weight of the numbers, including 8,000 children under the age of 16. The command center fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Proxima Colony was humanity's first settlement beyond the solar system. Families had lived there for 3 generations, building farms and schools and libraries. Now those families faced complete annihilation. Dr. Kate Phillips entered the briefing room carrying a sealed case that made everyone in the room nervous. Inside that case were the final calculations for Project Ragnarok, humanity's ultimate weapon. It was a device so dangerous that even its creators were afraid of it. "Admiral," she said, "we have one option remaining. The quantum cascade generator is ready for deployment." Turner looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military leadership. Some showed fear, others showed determination. All of them understood that they faced a choice between using an untested superweapon or watching millions of human colonists die. "Explain it again." "Doctor," Turner requested. Dr. Phillips opened her case and activated a holographic display. "The quantum cascade generator creates a controlled collapse of local space-time. In theory, it should destroy any matter within a 50-kilometer radius while leaving the surrounding area intact." "In theory?" asked Colonel Paul Richards, the project's military liaison. "We have never tested it at full power," Phillips admitted. "The theoretical models suggest it will work as designed. But if the cascade reaction goes out of control, it could expand indefinitely. Meaning it could potentially consume everything within 100 light-years. Including Earth." The room erupted in worried murmurs. Turner raised his hand for silence and studied the technical specifications. The weapon was essentially a controlled black hole generator, designed to create a localized collapse of reality itself. "What are the chances of a cascade failure?" he asked. "Less than 5%, Phillips replied. "But Admiral, if it does fail, the explosion could sterilize multiple star systems." Turner closed his eyes and thought about his family back on Earth. His daughter Sarah had sent him a drawing just yesterday, showing stick figures of astronauts exploring distant planets. She wanted to be an explorer when she grew up. Just like her grandfather, the Vorthak Empire wanted to kill Sarah and every other human child in the galaxy. "How long until the planet killer reaches Proxima Colony?" Turner asked. 5 days, 18 hours, Thompson answered. And how long to prepare Project Ragnarok for deployment? Dr. Phillips checked her calculations. 60 hours if we work around the clock. Turner looked at the tactical display showing the approaching planet killer. The weapon was massive beyond comprehension, easily the size of a small moon. Its surface bristled with energy collectors designed to focus stellar radiation into a planet-cracking beam. Begin immediate preparation of Project Ragnarok, he ordered. Alert Captain Mitchell that the Defiance will carry the device. This is our only chance to save Proxima Colony. As the meeting broke up, Turner stood alone in the command center staring at the star map. Somewhere out there, a weapon designed to murder worlds was heading toward human families. In response, humanity was preparing to deploy a device that could accidentally destroy entire solar systems. God help us all, he whispered. The war had escalated beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Two species were preparing to use weapons that could reshape the very fabric of space itself. One side fought to conquer and enslave. The other fought to protect their children from extinction. Only one side would survive what was coming next. The planet killer emerged from hyperspace above Proxima Colony, like a metallic moon blotting out the stars. The massive weapon stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its surface covered with energy collectors that glowed with deadly purpose. On the planet below, 43,000 human colonists looked up at the sky and knew their time had come. War Commander Tevlot stood on the bridge of the planet killer, preparing to broadcast humanity's doom across the galaxy. His orders were simple. Destroy the colony world as a demonstration of Vorthak power, then proceed to Earth for the final blow. People of Earth, his message began, transmitted on all frequencies. Witness the price of defying the Vorthak Empire. Your children on this world will die as an example to all who would resist our rule. The transmission suddenly cut to static as something impossible began to happen. Space itself started to tear apart around the planet killer. Captain Dan Mitchell guided the modified cruiser Defiance toward the massive alien weapon, knowing that his ship carried humanity's last desperate hope. Project Ragnarok had been loaded into the ship's cargo bay just hours before departure. The quantum cascade generator hummed with barely contained energy, ready to unleash forces that could reshape reality itself. Distance to target? Mitchell asked his navigation officer. 50 kilometers and closing, Captain. The device is armed and ready for deployment. Mitchell thought about the colonists on Proxima below, families who had spent generations building a new world among the stars. He thought about his own son back on Earth, only 12 years old and dreaming of following his father into space. The Vorthak wanted to kill them all simply because humanity had refused to surrender their children. Deploy Project Ragnarok, he ordered. The quantum cascade generator, launched from the Defiance like a metallic seed containing the power to destroy universes. It drifted toward the planet killer on a silent trajectory that would bring it within optimal range in 90 seconds. On Earth, Dr. Kate Phillips watched the readings from the monitoring station with her heart pounding in her chest. Cascade generator is active, she reported to Admiral Turner. Quantum field buildup is within normal parameters. Turner gripped the railing as he stared at the tactical display. What are the chances of containing the reaction? 87%, Admiral. The field equation suggests the cascade will collapse after consuming the target. And if it does not collapse? Phillips hesitated before answering. Then we have just created a black hole that will eventually consume everything within 100 light years. The quantum cascade generator reached optimal distance from the planet killer and activated. Reality hiccuped as the device began tearing apart the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. The massive alien weapon started to fold inward as its atomic bonds forgot how to exist. War Commander Tevlot watched in horror as his indestructible weapon began collapsing like paper in a fire. Impossible! Nothing can destroy the planet killer. Our armor can withstand stellar radiation. But the human weapon was not attacking the armor or the hull. It was attacking the basic laws of physics that held matter together. The planet killer compressed from hundreds of kilometers to hundreds of meters to hundreds of centimeters as its mass was crushed into an ever smaller space. Abandon ship, Tevlot screamed, but there was nowhere to go. The escape pods were being pulled into the same impossible collapse that claimed the main weapon. In 17 seconds, the planet killer and everything aboard it ceased to exist. The quantum cascade reaction reached its predetermined limit and collapsed harmlessly, leaving only empty space where the massive weapon had been. On Proxima Colony, Families emerged from their shelters to see a sky filled with stars instead of the shadow of death. Admiral Turner allowed himself one moment of relief before activating the fleet-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Jack Turner to all Hunter Corps units. Operation Retribution is now active. They threatened our children. They attempted genocide. Show them what happens when humanity is forced to respond." What followed would be remembered throughout galactic history as the human response, a campaign of such devastating efficiency that it redefined warfare itself. Human ships appeared in Vorthak space like ghosts, striking military targets with weapons that made conventional defenses useless. Captain Nicole Rodriguez led the assault on the Vorthak homeworld itself, commanding a fleet of 30 ships equipped with the newest quantum weapons. The planet below was heavily defended with orbital fortresses and energy shields. But humanity no longer played by conventional rules of warfare. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force," she broadcast to the cowering planet. "Your leaders chose to threaten our children. Your fleets attempted genocide against innocent colonists. By every law of war, we could reduce your world to atoms and be justified in doing so." The broadcast paused as Nicole looked at her tactical display. The weapons at her disposal could crack the planet like an egg or strip away its atmosphere in minutes. The quantum destabilizers could reduce the entire world to component particles. "Instead," she continued, "we offer terms. Surrender your war criminals. Dismantle your military completely. Submit to galactic oversight and inspection. Accept responsibility for the crimes committed against human civilians." On the planet below, Supreme War Leader Kaz Thul listened to the human demands with growing terror. He had expected them to simply destroy his world in revenge. Instead, they were showing mercy that his own species had never offered to conquered enemies. "This is our final offer," Nicole's voice continued. "You have 24 hours to respond. Remember that humanity had the power to destroy you completely and chose not to use it. That restraint is the only reason your children will see tomorrow." Across Vorthak space, similar scenes played out as human fleets appeared over every major world. The message was always the same: surrender completely or face annihilation. But the humans consistently chose mercy over vengeance, even when dealing with an enemy that had threatened genocide. The Vorthak Empire surrendered unconditionally within 3 months. War crimes tribunals were established to judge those responsible for planning the attack on human colonies. The Empire's military was disbanded and its weapons destroyed under human supervision. Elder Counselor Yixara addressed the reformed Galactic Council with words that would become humanity's unofficial motto throughout the galaxy: never attack humans, never threaten their young, never mistake their restraint for weakness, because when you force them to respond, you will discover that their mercy is far more terrifying than their wrath. The war trials revealed the full scope of Vorthak plans for human children: breeding programs, slave labor, military conscription. The evidence horrified even species that had fought their own wars of conquest. Humanity took its place in the galactic community, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Other species began calling on Earth when impossible situations needed to be resolved, when genocidal regimes needed to be stopped, when someone had to stand between innocent civilians and those who would harm them. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood before the Council 5 years after the war had ended. Behind him stood Admiral Amy Parker, who commanded the new Galactic Defense Force, a joint military organization led by humans but staffed by volunteers from dozens of worlds. "The galaxy learned an important lesson during the Vorthak War," Morrison said in his address. "Civilized beings must sometimes become uncivilized to protect civilization itself. Humanity accepted that burden not because we wanted to, but because someone had to." In schools across human space, children learned about the war through stories that emphasized both the cost of conflict and the importance of protecting the innocent. They learned that strength without mercy was tyranny, but mercy without strength was meaningless. The aliens had been warned by Elder Counselor Yixara not to attack humanity. They chose to ignore that warning and learned the hard way why threatening human children was the worst mistake any species could make. The response had been delivered. The message was clear, and in the furthest reaches of space, species that had never heard of humanity whispered stories that would ensure Earth's children could grow up in a universe where no one would dare threaten them again.